All right, in this section, we're going to go ahead and look at something that is kind of similar to the last section that we did. Last section, we were factoring quadratics in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a did equal 1. Now, in this case, a does not equal 1, which basically means is that every one of these is x squared. These guys have something in front of it. Okay, that is that a numerical coefficient other than 1. So, and we also have a pre-step right here, okay, that we have to factor out a common term first before we apply this method. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this guy right here, and let's do the first step. Is that the first step, like I have written in, I'm going to write it again because it's this important. So there it is, check for a common term. And the way that you do that is that you look at the quickest way that I think is for most people after they get some factoring down, is that we look at these numbers right here and we try and see, is there a number that can divide each one of those evenly, okay? Or, so looking at, is there a number that can divide into 2, a 13, and a 15 evenly? And the answer is no, there is not. And each one of these doesn't have an x to give because this has 2 x's, this has 1 x, and this has no x's. So therefore, there's no common term. After you check for that, which is, again, mandatory, then you can proceed to the factoring part. Okay, so let's dig into that factoring part, if you will. Okay, so to factor this, the first thing that we do, it seems a little weird, is that we're going to multiply this number by this number. And then I went ahead and circled the plus sign because you have to consider the sign as well. So when I do that, I remove the front number, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and put that in back. Oops, I wrote that 3 kind of funny. So we end up with 2 times a positive 15, which is a positive 30. So now we do something that is very familiar from the last video, is that we want to go ahead and we are taking those numbers and we are going to load them into this guy right here. And we're going to ask the same questions. And those questions are the same. What two numbers multiply to 30 and add to 13? So we can do a little bit of what we were trained to do before. Our possibilities are 1 times 30, because 1 times 30 is 30. 3 times 10. 6 times 5. And 2 times 15. Okay. So looks like we've got them all. And so from here, we can see, well, which ones are going to add to 13, and it would be those guys right there, because all our numbers are positive, so it seems like that's pretty straightforward, right? So 3 times 10 is 30, 3 plus 10 is 13. Those are our winners, and so we are going to go ahead and go like this. So now I bring on over, okay, this business of the setup right here, and I go plus 3 and plus 10, okay? So now, when I knock this out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have to do a last step, because if I were to multiply these back in, x times x is not going to be 2x a second. So there's something missing here, because if I'm just multiply this back into this right here, I wouldn't have what I started with. And we know that that's a rule, that we got to multiply out this and start this to check to see if you're correct. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take the 2 that we started off right here multiplying, and I'm going to divide it into each one of these and reduce, okay? So now we have to reduce each one of those fractions if we can. Oops, not redo, reduce. Okay, So here we go. Looking at this guy, the 3 over 2, okay? Actually, I'm not going to rewrite that. I'm going to look at just this part and say, can I reduce 3 over 2? That is that does something go into a 3 and does something go into 2 evenly where I can reduce that fraction? The answer is no. If you can't reduce it, you take this number and you put it out in front of that. So we're going to bring that down and we will have 2x plus 3 as our first term. Then I look over here and I say 10 divided by 2. Can I reduce that? And the answer is this. Yes, it would go just to 5. So that's nice. So that would be an x plus 5. Okay. So now this is going to be my proposed solution. And like anything else, what I want to do is I want to multiply that out such that we can check our answers because it's always a good idea to do so. So I get 2 times x, which is going to be 2x squared, 2x times 5, which is 10x, 3 times x is 3x, oops, and 3 times 15 is going to, 3 times 5 is going to give me 15. Collect like terms, and I get 2x squared plus 13x plus 15, which is what we started off with up here. So I know that right here, everything that I did when I was checking this, does it check? And the answer is yes, it does. Okay. So that's the steps. Factor out a common term first. Set things up like we were trained to do. Okay. Then we go ahead and divide by this number, reduce, okay, and then put the number out in front if need be, or when it's all just divided in, okay, like that, a 5, then it can go ahead and just bring down like a 5, okay. So, at any rate, let's pop on over to the next example and see where that takes us. Okay, in this one right here, we look like, all right, we got this number in front of here. So I'm going to go ahead and have to factor out a common term first if I hope to get this thing factored. Now, here is the deal, is that we go ahead and we think to ourselves, okay, so let me go ahead and write out the steps here so we don't get lost. So we're checking for a common term. That means is that what is a number that can divide into a 9, 21, and a 6 evenly. So if we were to go ahead and bust all these up, and I'm not going to see, a 9 would go 3 and 3, right? A 27, we could go ahead and bust up into a 3 times a 7, and a 6, we can go 3 times a 2. So it looks like what's in common with each one of those is going to go ahead and be a 3. So we're going to want to take that out first, otherwise our factoring won't work. So I take a 3 out, a parentheses, oops, I don't want to write yellow, it's hard to see, 3, and what's left then is the following, okay, is that we go 3x squared, that's what's left in the second part here, so we'd go 3x squared, and then positive 7x, and then finally we would just have this business of a positive 2. Okay. Now we have factored out a common term, and what we're going to do is that we're just going to now work with this guy right here in the same way that we did, and just keep bringing down all the steps, not forgetting about this 3 that is out in front. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to multiply that 3 times a 2, and we're going to get 3, and the new stuff is going to give us x squared plus 7x plus 6. Okay, and so now with that we go on to our steps of what two numbers. Okay, so let me write that out. All right, so what two numbers multiply to the 6 and add to the 7. Okay, so pretty easy stuff. With a 6, you break it down like that, 1 and 6, and just like, all right, well, it looks like that's going to add to 7. Our only other way would have been 2 times 3, which we know add them up as 5, so that's not going to work. So the numbers that we like are 1 and 6. So I'm going to bring everything down, and in this case, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to break these up. So I'm breaking up this part right here, okay, this part right here, such that it is going to be 2 binomials, and then we can do our thing from there. So we got our x plus 1 and our x plus 6, okay, brought over from here, brought over from here. Okay. And now we have to divide through each one of these, because we multiplied by a 2 way back when. So now we're going to have to divide each one of these by a 3, okay? So what we're looking at then is this business of reducing, because we got to reduce each one of these for our final answer. So let's do that, okay? Our question is 1/3 already reduced? And the answer is yes, it is, okay? So that means is that this 3 is going to go in front of that x there. Is 6 over 3 reduced? And the answer is no, that will just be a 2. So to catch up, what we're writing here is that it would go 3x plus 1, and we just said that this is going to be a 2 right here, 6 divided by 3, and now we have this as our proposed solution here, okay? Don't forget about the 3. Notice you're bringing it down every single time. So let's check our work real quick to make sure that we're right, to make sure that when we multiply these out, we're going to get this guy first. So this is our checking over in this direction here. Pen doesn't want to work. Here we go. So I got 3x plus 1, x plus 2. First thing I want to do here is the FOIL. And I'm just going to bring this 3 down, and I'm going to put all the foily stuff in here, like that. Okay. Collect like terms, and bring everything down. So I'd get 3x plus 7x plus 2. And then finally, we would have the 3 to distribute back in, and that will give me 9x squared plus 21x plus 6. And you can see it's a winner because we go ahead and we end up with the same thing that we started off with, so we know that this answer right here is correct. Okay. Not exactly, you know what I mean, like there's a lot of work to go ahead and get done, and and whatnot, but it will come second nature as you practice more of these in class. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when we have to factor out that negative sign like we practiced in one of the first videos. So I'll meet you over at that one. Okay, so here we are, and we have this negative sign right here. And one of the things that we did in our first video is that we said, okay, we're going to factor out a negative sign. And the way that we did that, really in a shorthand or whatever, if you will, is that we take a negative sign out, and then we set up the parentheses like this, okay? And what we're going to do is flip all the signs on these guys right here. So that means is that this was a positive x squared. I'm sorry, it was a negative x squared. So it's going to be a positive x squared. This was a positive 7x. It's going to now be a negative 7x. So all the signs basically go opposite. Positive 8 now turns into a negative 8. Okay. So now we have this guy right here to go ahead and factor. Notice that the negative sign is just chilling out in front, and that's fine. You want to get that out of there. Don't try factoring with the negative sign just lingering around. It messes up people's calculations. It's factored out. Be done with it. So now we just have something not too bad to deal with here. So that we say what two numbers, okay, so, all right, so those are the questions. What two numbers multiply to a negative 8 and add to a negative 7? So let's look at just the numbers that multiply to 8, right? And that's really about it. Now, like we practiced, is that one of these numbers got to be negative because the number that we're multiplying to is negative, so it has to be a positive and a negative, okay? And so if I look over here, I'm just kind of playing a little bit of a chess game and kind of thinking to myself, okay, well, 1 and 8, I can put them over here and just play around with the negative sign and see how that is going to go ahead and play out, okay? And so if I put a negative sign here, let's go ahead and give this a try. All right, might not be correct, but still. So negative 1 times 8 is a negative 8. Negative 1 plus 8 is not a negative 7, it's a positive 7. So what we can do then is we can take that negative sign and put it over here and give that a try. 1 times a negative 8 is a negative 8. 1 minus 8 is a negative 7. Ooh, we like that, okay? And so, bringing down the negative, we're going to set up the parentheses. And I'm going to get x minus, or plus 1 and x minus 8. Again, taking those and putting them right there. This is our proposed answer, okay? And so let's go ahead and check it real quick again, because we are just learning how to do this stuff, and it's always just good to check, reinforce your knowledge of the concept. So let's FOIL first. So I'm bringing down everything and going x squared. Negative 8 times x is a negative 8x. 1 times x is this a 1x. You don't have to write the 1, but I like to sometimes. Sometimes. All right. Collect like terms here in the middle. And bring it down, and I get this. Minus 7x minus 8. And the last thing we need to do here then for a full check is multiply in the negative sign, which is like multiplying a negative 1. So this is actually like multiplying in a negative 1. So that's going to flip all these signs. So that's going to turn that into negative x squared plus 7x plus 8. And now you can see that we have this and this are exactly the same. So I know that I factored it correctly with the negative sign. Okay. So that's how you navigate a negative sign. And now we're going to take a look at the one that has the negative sign and common terms and all that other good stuff. So we'll do this out step by step. Okay. So let's dig in. All right. This last one has a lot to do here. And no one likes to hear that. There's a lot to do, but sometimes that's what happens. Okay, so we got a number out in front and a negative sign. Whew. And so what I'd like to do is that if we got a negative sign out in front, what I'd like to do is do what we did in the previous example. And I'm just going to take that negative sign out so I don't forget about it. And I'm going to go like this, okay? And remember that this was negative, now it's positive. This is going to go negative, negative, because they were both positives. So, okay. Oops. All right. And now, so the first thing that we wanted to do is bring the negative out. And now, since we have the negative out, we don't have to worry about it anymore. But we still are going to check for this common factor here. And it looks like what could go into each one of those evenly? A 6, a 3, and an 18. And so if we broke these down, 6 can go into, let's see, a 3 times 2. 3 is a 3 times 1, and an 18 is a 3 times 6. So it looks like we can bring a 3 out of each one of these, okay? And let's see what we are going to go ahead and do with that. So we're going to go the negative in front. Oops. So we have the negative in front, and then the 3 that we're bringing out of each one of these, and then whatever's left in the parentheses, we're just going to bring on down. So this is going to give us 2x squared, and a negative 1x, or just a negative x, and finally a negative 6. So we go over here, and we got ourselves a negative 6. And so now we need to go ahead and focus on factoring this part like we did in some of the previous examples. So doing that out, we're going to multiply these two together, and I'm going to do a quick rewrite. So I have the negative sign, 3 that I brought out, and I have x squared minus x minus 12. And now we go ahead and we do that same question. So what in two numbers multiply to the negative 12 right here and add to this, which is 1, negative 1. So we go, and already ahead of time we know that one of them has to be negative because this has to be a positive times a negative to go ahead and get that negative 12 there. But what are the two numbers? So we have a 1 and a 12. We have a 3 and a 4. And we have a 2 and a 6. Then are going to give us 12. Now we know that one of them has to be negative. And what I'm going to do is challenge you to think like this, okay? Well, the negative and the difference between them two, because one of them is going to have to be negative, so that it's going to be a positive plus a negative. So that positive plus a negative is going to add to a negative down here. So basically, the difference in numbers with a difference of 1 between them logically would be the 3 and the 4. So it seems like that would be the easiest choice. Now, which one is going to be negative? So let's put the negative sign with the 4, see how that works out. So I got 3 times a negative 4 is a negative 12. 3 plus a negative 4, or 3 minus 4 is a negative 1. I know that those are the numbers, and so we're in good shape. So bringing everything down, breaking this up, and we got x plus 3, x minus 4. So now we multiplied by a 2. So that means is that we're going to have to divide a 2 into each one of those. And I'm going to basically say, all right, well, do they reduce out? Now, this one right here does not reduce, so the 2 goes in front of there. And this one does reduce down to 2 over 1, or or just a negative 2. And so what we have is our final answer is a negative 3x, 2x plus 3, and x minus 2. And this is our proposed solution. And just like everything else that we've been doing here, since we're new, we're going to check. So let's bring it on over, and we'll FOIL it out first. And then we'll multiply that negative 3 in, and kind of like a quality of life, you always want to do that in that order. So I have negative 3, bringing this down, doing the FOIL. 2 times x is 2x squared. 2x times a negative 2 is a negative 4x. 3 times x is 3x, and this is going to give me a negative 6 on the way back here. And multiply, we should probably do some collecting like terms first and make things easier. So those are like terms. And I'm going to get 2x squared minus x minus 6. And then finally, at the end of the day, our final step is to distribute the negative 3 into each one of those. And that's going to give me a negative 6x squared plus 3x plus 18. And once more, we can see that this matches this guy right here, so we know that we're all good. Okay, so that's the way that we're going to have to handle this business of the quadratics when we don't have a number that is going to be 1 in front of the x squared. It's going to be something else. So that's how you do that. And yeah, we're going to go ahead in our next 2 videos, we're going to take a look at some factoring patterns and go a little bit down the rabbit hole with those. But that's how you do that, those guys, and see you in the next video.